Hello and welcome to All Elite Morro. How's everybody doing? Let's get the interface set up here. That's the wrong one. That's it. Make it a little bit smaller. Now I can see what's happening in the chat. How many people are watching or not watching? Who gives a shit? Few things start off. New podcast went out today on the YouTube. Myself and Shane did one on wrestling's backstage fights. I knew jack shit about what we were talking about, but we had a good laugh anyway. Shane had loads of deadly stories. I knew a few of the stories in the past, but I didn't know them all. But yeah, get in there, watch that in its entirety, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. We're currently in the midst of the Monday Night Wars. Wrestling Fan Wrestling shows Monday Night Wars. The main pod versus All Elite Morro. And let me tell you, brother, All Elite Morro is taking a battering, an absolute battering in the ratings war. We were ahead for a few days last week, but it didn't work out well in the long run. A few submissions here first. Oshin Mac, currently binging on old All Japan stuff, Misawa and the like. Any recommendations? Hell yeah. I would start with like 1990 Misawa versus Saruta, when Misawa picks up his first major singles victory. Like, really good match. Not unbelievable, but really good. But also you got like 6-man tag from the following year between Taue, Saruta, and I think it's Fuchi versus Misawa, Kobashi, and Kawada. Unbelievable. And then classic 6-3-94 Kawada versus Misawa, one of the greatest matches of all time. 6-3-93. One of the greatest matches of all time. I would definitely recommend that. David Ayre says, to be fair, I've always been a fan of the number 2 company more than number 1. Yes. We are the upstart. We don't have the production values that we have down in the dungeon, but we do have the office. We do have a bit of Brody Lee over my shoulder as well. There's a 97 match between Kobashi and Misawa. That's just unbelievable as well. Any of them tag matches as well from the early 90s. There is an incredible Taue and Kawada versus Kobashi and Misawa. That's just insane as well. Any of those, you can't go wrong. Like, there's a great Kobashi versus Stan Hansen match as well. Ronan C is in. Welcome to All Elite Whispers with Morro. Am I whispering? I feel like I'm talking louder than usual. I noticed I'm not good at the editing yet. I'm supposed to be like editing the sound for the Spotify version, and it's still jack shit. Then I have a load R_N80 is asking about the Karrion Kross situation. We will get to that. Another one, Ush O'Reilly, asking about the Karrion Kross situation. We're going to get to that. Mark Dowd is a really good question about Sami Zayn. How do you about him being ice cold right now, and his whole underdog gimmick is not working for Mark. We're going to get to that as well. I'm going to tie that in with the Karrion Kross situation. Ush O'Reilly, WWE just letting their MAGA flag wave with all this crap. It's insane. They've gone full MAGA. But we're going to get into that in the opening segment as well, because I think it's all connected. Then Ush asks, will you and the lads be attending the SmackDown Dublin show this month? We will not. None of us are going, actually. Number of factors. I have a wedding that weekend. Also, the pricing was just absolutely ridiculous. Like, I think everyone feels the same about the pricing. I think that's really what turned off Shane and Dunph. Like, maybe Dunph was thinking about possibly bringing the kids, stuff like that, and just like, fuck that, you know what I mean? Like, it was costing a fortune to bring the family. Even for like one ticket, it was crazy. Unless you want to sit up in the nosebleeds. Now I know in the Tree Arena the nosebleeds probably aren't too bad. You'll get to see everything. I put up my Charlie Day Pepe Sylvia thing here because I think that's kind of what today's show is going to be like. So I had a running order for this show that you may have seen released earlier, and starting off with as is in the shocker, or as is in the title, a WWE ESPN deal being a shocker. Well, today, after I made the thumbnail, a bigger shocker dropped. How you doing, Pirates Wrestling? How are you doing? Welcome. Um, so we're going to jump into this. I know it's not strictly wrestling related, but it actually is. This is going to have a profound effect, I think, on the wrestling industry. And you'll see the second topic is actually what the lead was, WWE ESPN deal. But the UFC Paramount deal was announced today, and this came as a gigantic shock for a couple of reasons. This is one of the biggest sports deals uh, ever, really. The NFL deals generally tend to dwarf everything. Premier League deals worldwide tend to dwarf a lot of things. But this UFC to Paramount Plus deal is absolutely gigantic, and it's going to have a major effect on the wrestling industry. Again, this is another TKO company. So when WWE announced the ESPN deal towards the end of last week, the monster ESPN deal, 325 million a year just for the PLEs, not for any weekly product. What will they get? Maybe probably 2 nights SummerSlam, 2 nights of WrestleMania plus 12 more. Like you're looking at 14 to 16 max. Um, if Pirates asks if Killer Cross goes to AEW, what storyline you want to see the most if it happens? Personally, two things. I don't think he's going to AEW, and I don't think he should go to AEW. And I suppose the third thing, I don't want him to go to AEW. Cottle Crow got a quality ticket for Glasgow for like €30. Would be €300 for the same quality you see in Dublin for SmackDown. Like that's fucking insane. 10 times the price for the same quality of seat. I think if Cross went to AEW, it would be a disaster for him, just because their in-house style of wrestling really doesn't suit his style. Like, of course, there's interesting things you could do with him because he's a decent storyteller. It's just I don't see how he would fit in to their current product. A couple of years ago, maybe. Now I just don't see it. Um, so the UFC and Paramount uh, announced a deal today for all UFC televised content, i.e., the 30 shows a year, the fight night shows, plus the 13 numbered, what would traditionally be the pay per view events. Uh, they're going on to Paramount's new direct to consumer streaming service. Um, and the deal was for 1.1 billion a year on average, so 7.7 billion over 7 years. That is one of the biggest deals you will ever hear on media rights. And the crazy thing about this is, and I'm just going to bring this up here. I have it. Drag this across here. So the company's market cap, the company's total valuation is 6.4 billion, yet they've just signed a 7.7 billion deal. This is like insanity. So UFC are getting paid 7.7 billion over 7 years from the Paramount Skydance Corporation. So Paramount and Skydance merged, finally merged last week. The merger was announced ages ago, but the merger went through last week because it was being held up by the White House. And Paramount had to jump through a few hoops. So Paramount owned CBS, which CBS was never a friendly organization towards Donald Trump. That may be in the process of changing. And this relates back to what Ush said about the MAGA thing. Um, UFC, TKO are a major MAGA company, and now they've become the biggest centerpiece of Paramount's new streaming deal, which Trump is going to be all over these UFC shows like he always is. And On top of that, Disney, who own ESPN, you can see their market cap there, 201 billion, are now paying WWE 325 million a year for the PLEs. So what we're seeing here, and how this relates totally back to wrestling, is we get this move from TKO bringing UFC to Paramount. This changes the wrestling landscape massively in one key way. WWE now have their, or TKO I should say, now have their products spread across almost every single platform that's available in the US. So you have Netflix, you've got USA still has SmackDown, you've got now PLEs moving to ESPN. Like the ESPN deal in and of itself is an incredible deal. And now you have UFC moving to Paramount. And that leaves very little space for AEW's next negotiating period. Right. I really thought that before last week, the feeling was that WWE were going to move away from ESPN, or it's that UFC were going to move away from ESPN. That's been a disastrous relationship from the start, which is why I was surprised ESPN were getting back into bed with TKO so quickly. Now, there's three key figures here. We have Nick Khan, who we all know from his role as president in WWE. We also have Ari Emanuel, who is the owner of Endeavor, which is the parent company of TKO. And we also have Mark Shapiro, who's the former head of ESPN, but he's a president now in TKO as well. Ari Emanuel, if you don't know who he is, he's the character in Entourage that plays the character of the agent in Entourage is based on Ari Emanuel. They call the character in the TV show Ari Gold, but he's actually Ari Emanuel. He was traditionally the biggest media or entertainment agent in Hollywood. He then started his own company and got into things like media and entertainment. He is probably the greatest power broker in the last 50 years of entertainment. And then you got Nick Khan, who's one of the greatest sports and entertainment agents of all time as well. And you get Mark Shapiro, who was kind of a legendary head of ESPN. And they're all under TKO umbrella now. And they're running laps around every other organization when it comes to getting their content onto various platforms. As we said, they have multi hundreds of millions deal per year with Netflix. They have massive deal with USA with SmackDown. They have now $1 billion a year deal on Paramount. They have a multi-billion-dollar several-year deal with ESPN. I thought that ESPN could be a potential future landing spot for AEW once UFC left there. I thought UFC would potentially go to Netflix and that TKO would be all under one umbrella. But this is another step in what we're seeing as the great wrestling war of our time between AEW and WWE, in that WWE with the backing of TKO, and to be able to put people in that room like Mark Shapiro, like Ari Emanuel, like Nick Khan when it comes to negotiations, that might be the greatest negotiating team ever assembled when it comes to cutting these type of TV and sports deals. What we're seeing is a company like Paramount, they cannot afford this deal. We looked at their market cap. Their market cap is 6.4 billion. That's the total value of the company. They've just done a major merger with Skydance, which is owned by the Ellison family. And so the Ellisons are now basically taking over Paramount, and they're very much interested in new media. So what we get here is they're splashing out because Paramount Plus has been a streaming platform for a few years. It's never really taken off. It's not on nowhere near on the level of, like, if you think of the streaming hierarchy, you get Netflix on top. Under that, you've got Amazon, ESPN Plus, the Zone maybe a little bit further down, and all of these things, maybe with the exception of Netflix, are losing money hand over fist. But what they need when they're trying to expand is content. And Paramount are taking the risk. They're going to lose money on this without a shadow of doubt. They're going to lose major money on it, but they're hoping that attracts enough eyes to the platform or enough subscribers to the platform that they can monetize that further down the line. But this is a hugely risky deal for them. They're currently in the process, recently announced, of trying to cut 3.7 billion in spending. Um, at a time where they're doing a 1.1 billion a year deal with UFC or TKO. Now, this brings us on to the second topic, which is this WWE ESPN deal. So, Ronan in the chat says the timing of the Paramount deal for UFC is interesting given the discourse of the price ESPN will be for WWE fans compared to what they're currently paying for Paramount Plus in America. I would think, Ronan, do you mean Peacock? So, here's the thing with the ESPN deal. This is an incredible deal for WWE. ESPN, out of all the various media companies in the US, has close to the biggest reach. It has over 100 million. Has over 100 million in reach, but also it has things like Sports Center, which is one of the most watched kind of afternoon sports shows. It is the most watched afternoon sports show in the country. It's like if you're over this side of the world, Sky Sports News, except like multiples of that. Now the thing with Sports Center is they do a lot of live. They will go to events and broadcast live from various events. But the thing that really helped with UFC growth was getting on Sports Center. So like where Sports Center would do segments about what's happening in WWE, big shows coming up, profiling certain fighters, talking about different storylines. Now there's no doubt in my mind that WWE are going to be getting a similar treatment. The eyes that brings to WWE is absolutely insane. Now where it hurts is it's 29.99 a month, US dollars. This won't affect us over here in Ireland or in the UK or anywhere around here watching on Netflix. But it's $30 a month for this package that carries all the WWE PLEs. I hate that word, PLEs, pay-per-views. So it's $30 a month for that, which is a huge increase from what WWE fans are traditionally used to paying. If we go back to 2014 when they brought in the network, the whole the WWE network, which was like awesome. The whole thing about that was you pay $10 a month and you get everything. We don't know what's going to happen with the back catalog. Currently, that's staying on Peacock by the looks of it for a while anyway. Maybe they'll just mass upload it onto YouTube, which would be pretty awesome. However, it's going to be $30 a month where you'll get your 1 or 2 nights of your PLEs, which is quite a lot of money. Now, if you're getting the ESPN package and you're a sports fan, it's great. You're going to get a shitload of sports on top of already getting WWE. Thing about it is, a real good part of the deal is if you're on a cable provider that already has ESPN attached to it, you get this extra package for free as part of your cable subscription. So I think it's a pretty good deal for wrestling fans, and it's an incredible deal for WWE in terms of the exposure WWE are going to get from this, and in terms of imagine the backlog part of YouTube membership. Oh, we had to pay a YouTube membership for the back catalog. That would be a complete and utter disaster. Judge says if Cross goes to AEW, he should make a new House of Black. Didn't work the first time. I don't see it working the second time. But we'll get into Karrion Kross in detail. So yeah, this is like, look, WWE under TKO, whatever we think about the quality of the product they're producing, the business that they're pulling in, is just next level. It's insane. This company is just so solidified, as is their partners in UFC. I think we're now really starting to see we're a couple of years in to the UFC WWE merger under TKO, and we're really seeing the power of that back office come together. Nick Khan, Mark Shapiro, Ari Emanuel, even Chris LeGentle, he was given a shout out by Nick Khan the other day in an interview he did about this deal. And I think maybe it's time for Tony Khan to start looking at beefing up that part of his business. Like in terms of getting in really savvy corporate leaders who have a lot of experience in the entertainment landscape to beef up his, like it seems to be Tony Khan, like he does, whatever people say, have a tremendous amount of experience in terms of uh, sports media. Like, he's got his analytics company. He's part of the family that have um he's got the sports analytics company. Obviously, his father is the owner of both Fulham Premier League Football Club and Jacksonville Jaguars, an NFL team. And he's been around that kind of deals his whole life, really, or well, most of his adult life for sure, anyway. And he is the general manager essentially of Fulham, so he's cutting those type of deals for a long, long time. However, if you look on the other side, and you've got Chris Legentle, Mark Shapiro, Ari Emanuel, Nick Khan, these guys, I do think this is a sign now that Tony does need to kind of beef up that side of his business. That backroom staff who have absolutely nothing to do with wrestling. Like you see Nick Khan last week giving that interview about the ESPN deal. He didn't mention one single wrestler. He probably doesn't even fucking know how half the wrestlers are. But what he does do, and what he does know, is how to create these corporate partnerships with mammoth organizations like ESPN and like now the new Paramount Plus. Ronan, WWE seriously undervalued the WWE network in order to get people to sign up massively. And I think, Ron, the other thing is, and I imagine you'd agree with this, um, they taught the audience that the value of a PLE is $10 a month, not 50 or not 60. They almost trained their own audience to undervalue it as well. Like 10 a month is like basically nothing for the back catalogue plus that month's PLE, and like which also includes WrestleMania and SummerSlam and Royal Rumble and all the big ones. So not only did they undervalue it, they taught us as the consumer to undervalue it as well. And now to go back to $30 a month, look, it's WWE fans. I'm sure a significant chunk of the fan base will subscribe to this ESPN package, and some of them probably already have it for free as part of their cable packages. Kieran Dunphy says, "Give me back my hat." It's not your hat, Kieran. We spoke about this. This is squatters' rights. I have the hat. It's on my head. I'm sweating in it. Judge says Jaguars kicker kicked the 70-yard field goal. I saw that. That's absolutely insane. Somebody needs to get a check on what concoction of drugs are in his system right now. I should wrestle at Forbidden Door 0 Hour in London. I'd love that. Get my ass kicked in public. Always fun. But yeah, so we're looking at these two deals. I think in both cases, and the crazy thing about this is the price is just upped for WWE content, and the price has gone down for UFC content. So as part of this deal for UFC, the pay-per-views are gone. They've openly said today. Dana White has said it. Mark Shapiro has said it in various interviews on TV in America today. I was just watching one right before I logged on, that the pay-per-view model is dead. That's what they're saying. So who's left in the pay-per-view space? You get AEW, who do very good pay-per-view numbers. You get Misfits Boxing, The Zone, and you get all these things. And with UFC, one of the biggest. Now I know their numbers of the last couple of years have been pretty bad, and that's why ESPN wanted out of the deal. Um, they're going to a subscription model with WWE, but UFC have gone now from December 2025, the December pay-per-view, whatever that is, whoever's headlining that. If you're in America, it's going to be $80 on ESPN. The following month's one, the January one, is going to be $11.99 on Paramount Plus. Like UFC have totally gotten rid of it, and you wonder what that will do to the pay-per-view model going forward for the likes of AEW. Is this going to change the value of content for them? Are their numbers going to drop because people are no longer willing to pay $50 because you can get a premium pay-per-view product like UFC, even though the product has been pretty shit, for $11.99. And like this is the thing we're seeing with both UFC and WWE. I think most of us are in agreement on this. The quality of WWE this year has been poor. quality of UFC for about 2 years has been poor. So the more TKO are getting their fingers into these companies, the weaker the product is getting. At the same time, both companies are getting huge increases in media rights. So we're seeing the quality of products fall off a cliff. And we've been speaking about this for a while on the main podcast as well, and that I've been through the TKOification of UFC as a long-time fan. And me and Shen and Dunph and John spoke about what that might look like for WWE. I think we're starting to see that now, what that looks like in terms of a decrease in the quality of the product and an increase in pumping out content. Just before we came live today, and I don't have a picture for this because it literally news broke about 20 minutes before we went live. We're seeing another twist in the tail of WWE's war on the space against on AEW's position within the space. So we know that mid-September AEW is at the Rogers Centre in Toronto. I think it's the Rogers Centre. Well, the Rogers Centre is huge. Is that the one it's in? It's in a big arena in Toronto anyway. For their all-out pay-per-view, WWE are running another pay-per-view the same day. Now, what we've seen at WWE counter-programming AEW thus far is using a load of NXT pay-per-views or PLEs. We've seen them use Saturday night's main event, but this time they're running a main roster PLE. I think it's going to be Bad Blood, uh, going against the All Out show. So this is another step in this. They're really ramping up their assault on AEW, and like Tony has a few years before his rights deal is up. He's got an incredible media rights deal for the next few years. Um, so he's going to need to put plans in place for that, because what TKO have done here with this Paramount deal, I was just thinking last week after the announcement of the ESPN deal, and I had the assumption that UFC would either go to Amazon or Netflix for their pay-per-views. I was wrong. They've gone to Paramount. What TKO have done here is they have shrunk the marketplace for the likes of AEW. So now when AEW's next media rights deal is coming up, right? Who's left for them to negotiate with? Now, look, the chances are, no matter what, they'll stay with WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery. They'll stay under Max, TBS, TNT. They're all under that Warner Brothers Discovery umbrella. Like, the chances are they'll stay there anyway. But if they could potentially go out and negotiate, and that would drive up the price maybe that Warner Brothers Discovery are going to give them. That option is no longer there, because who's left? They're left with Fox, and they're left with Warner Brothers Discovery. So the marketplace for them has shrunk massively. And that's the danger. Now, Tony has 3-4 years in order to like get plans put in place for that. But it's something that he needs to start thinking about soon, because his negotiation power when it comes to their next rights deal is shrinking by the moves that TKO are making. He's been outplayed here. And look, he's been outplayed. They're still a 6-year-old company versus one of what we're seeing now, the most powerful media conglomerates in we don't know how long. Uh, so a few chats there. Are you going to Forbidden Door? I'm going to All Out here in Canada. I'd love to go to All Out in Canada. I'm still considering Forbidden Door. There's a window of possibility that I could go to Forbidden Door. A small window of possibility, but a window nonetheless. The Paul Celeb fights, PPVs. Don't forget the Logan Paul's fighting. The Logan Paul's. Jake Paul fighting on boxing on pay-per-views. Like, they don't do tremendous numbers, but they still do some business. Like, they do more than 100K, like, which takes in good money. But I think that market is shrinking as well. Ronan says, but WWE will tell you they don't see AEW's competition. Like, that's the biggest lie of all time. We're seeing like every move they make is, and it's not just about AEW, but AEW are kind of their biggest competitor for TKO at the moment. You look at the MMA space; it's just left with PFL as a competitor. Bellator are gone, so UFC are only left with PFL, who are coincidentally also on ESPN. So when UFC leaves ESPN, and then almost instantaneously, WWE will join ESPN. It's crazy to me that these guys can negotiate deals, because the UFC deal was a disaster for ESPN. They lost money hand over fist, and it's the same company. They're just going, okay, we'll that's gone. We'll just replace it with WWE. It's the same fucking company. Um, uh, Goldberg last match, Evolution, failed miserably against AEW last time. The Fed tried this, and it made them look very weak. That's the crazy thing, JB. I know you were in the chat around that time when we were talking about that. They're taking a huge risk because All Out is going to be a banger show. And All Out has already done great numbers in terms of live attendance in the arena. They've sold a shitload of tickets. I think the last time I've seen it, the arena can hold about 16,000. They haven't even announced a match yet, and they've already sold like something like 13,000 tickets. Like that show at the minute is looking like a huge success. Um, so WWE now they're ramping it up, right? Like as we said, they've used NXT that failed. Not only did it fail on the Wednesday Night Wars on TV, but it also failed in their recent attempts by programming NXT PLEs against it, like the Great American Bash. Like utter failure. Then they tried Saturday night's main event with a fucking Goldberg retirement match. What it got no attention, and they served to piss off Goldberg in his own retirement match. And now they're doing it with what it's supposed to be, I suppose, one of their biggest shows. But we probably know what we're going to get. We're going to get a 5 card show, one world title match. They could, well, like, will they try and burn a Cena match there? Will they use one of their last remaining 12 dates for Cena? Because what if they put Cena in the main event and it doesn't draw the eyes away from AEW that they're hoping for? Like, that fucks over Cena. Are they willing to do that? Are they going to do a Cody title defense there? Are they willing to do that? Are they going to bring Roman back? I don't think Roman's available. I think at that stage he is shooting that film Street Fighter, which is either record. Are they doing that in either New Zealand or Australia? So I don't think Roman will be available. Cody may not be available for that. But are they going to use a Cena match to try and counter program AEW? Because that's actually, if they do, it's a perception win for AEW. It's a thing of going, all right, you're using Cena to counter program this fucking company now. That's telling you this company is the real deal. Um, and what if a Cena match fails in that spot and it doesn't, like, All In did the third biggest buy. The All In buy rate is now higher than Sting's retirement match, which AEW like Revolution 2024. Sting's retirement match was AEW's third biggest pay per view of all time. That has now been surpassed by All In this year. So Goldberg's retirement match did nothing to take away pay per view buys from All In 2025. Like that had 30,000 people, give or take, in the arena, and now is their third biggest pay per view of all time. What if All Out does a big number against the Cena fucking retirement, not his retirement match, but part of his retirement run? That's damaging for WWE and for Cena. So AEW are really hanging in there in this fight. Um, while being counter programmed. The crazy thing is, I don't know why WWE is doing all this counter programming because AEW aren't going anywhere. They have a tremendous rights deal for the next 4 years, 4.5, and they're going to get a new rights deal in 4 years' time. One of the signs of that already is Tony just signed Kyle Fletcher to like a 5 year plus deal. He's starting to sign people beyond the end of their media rights deal, which shows like extreme confidence that there will be new good media rights deals in the future. He put like Kyle Fletcher just got the Supermax in sports terms. He got a major bump in his pay and he got locked up on a 5 year contract, which is the most we ever see in wrestling is 5 year contracts. Gonna be with the days of Vince offering Brett a 20 year contract. JB says All In was my first AEW pay per view, and it's looking very likely that I'm going to attend a show here in Glasgow before watching the London show. There you go. You should go actually, because I think tickets are fairly reasonable for the Dynamite. And go home Dynamites aren't always the best ones, but like I think they're doing shooting Collision with it. So you'll get like 4 hours of really good wrestling at the very least. I do think that's going to be a pretty newsworthy show to go to as well because that's the only Dynamite between now and All In where a lot of the Japanese talent who will be used on the card can show up. So you'll end up getting a flood of angles with Japanese talent to prepare for their matches on the Sunday night. So the likes of Tanahashi, you're going to have an angle between Tanahashi and I suspect Kyle Fletcher. you're going to have an angle between Zack Sabre Jr. and Nigel McGuinness. Um, a lot of cool stuff could happen on that Dynamite card. Speaking of cool shit, here's Karrion Kross. A lot of questions about Karrion Kross this week. Is it a work? Is it a shoot? My take on it is I don't know if it's a work or a shoot. A lot of reporting out there is actually now saying that his contract really is up. Now that could very well be, you know, what's your take on this? Because we all watch WWE Unreal. This seems to me like the pure Unreal fodder that they're going to work the boys. They're working the crowd in the back. Um, Tickets available for only £30 for a Dynamite and Collision. Bargain, Jamie. Go for it. Go for it. If it's easy for you, like I think you're in Glasgow as well, so it should be relatively easy to get there and home. The only thing is it'll be a late night. Um, like that probably won't finish till like 11. But it'll be cool. And you get Dynamite Park first. If you want to dip out early in Collision, you won't miss anything super newsworthy. You might miss a cool 6-man tag or something. Um, so yeah, what like to me this feels like pure Unreal fodder. The type of thing where Triple H can turn around and say it was all part of the show. Did you enjoy the show? Um, and like to me, Karrion Kross and Scarlett have issues with Don Callis. Don Callis was accused of a few years ago doing something, I don't know, sex pesty around these two. I don't know the full story, but that's just something. He was eventually cleared of it, but I don't know how. This is in TNA. I don't know how clear he really is. Who knows? Um, just that something happened. David Ayers has the exact same take on me. My take on Karrion Kross, I don't care enough about him to have an opinion on if it's a work. I basically feel the same, David. So my take is that this is a work and that he'll be back with WWE pretty soon. It has been reported that he's taking indie dates in North America, um, and that could be part of the work. He might do 5 indie dates. Like this is what they should have did this with Punk in 2011 when he beat Cena. He should have showed up on the Indies in Ring of Honor wherever with WWE Heavyweight title. Uh, he should have showed up all over the place, Indies all over the country with the WWE Heavyweight title. Instead, they brought him back to TV 2 weeks later and made shit of what could have been an unbelievable storyline. Yeah, but my suspicion is that he will show up. We mightn't see him for a few weeks. Now, he could fucking show up on Raw tonight or NXT tomorrow night. He ain't going to AEW. No chance. I don't see him going full time TNA. I see people fantasy booking him to AEW and stuff. I don't think there's any point in that, and I don't think he fits in. Like, what is he good at? Like, think about what he's good at. He's kind of good at storytelling, but in the sense of, like, not in ring storytelling, in the sense of intrigue. That's the type of shit WWE love. So he's like, the only thing he's good at, WWE is the only place that fits. Because in AEW, you can be good at storytelling, but you need to be fucking excellent when the bell rings. And he's not. AEW is, they tell great stories, but they're a wrestling first company. That's the key thing is you need to be able to put on consistent 4-star matches, and Karrion Kross is not able to do that. Now, we had a question earlier about Sami Zayn and him being called. This is mind-boggling to me. Sami Zayn discourse that's taken off. Wouldn't be surprised to see him turn up in AAA and TNA before his return. I think that's very likely wrong. That we do now. I know he has beef with TNA, but it's kind of a different TNA now. It's basically an extension of WWE. I think we see him in AAA and TNA before he inevitably returns to the main roster. But like we have another R-Truth situation here. They just nuked R-Truth's comeback last week by having him turn back from R Killings into R-Truth and his interaction with Cena. Karrion Kross, like, and they have, like, here's another thing. Like, Paul Heyman went on the Ariel Helwani show last week and compared Karrion Kross to, wait for it, fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bryan Danielson. If ever there was an indication that Paul Heyman is out of his fucking mind, it's comparing Karrion Kross to Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bryan Danielson, two of the greatest to ever do it. Um, yes, Stone Cold was a great character. Bryan Danielson was a great character. But when the bell rang, those guys were unbelievable. We're talking about why is Sami Zayn feeling cold at the minute. It's because he got locked in a program with Karrion Kross for the last 2 or 3 months. That's all it is. Sami Zayn and his character won't feel cold in 6 weeks' time when he's in programs with the type of talent that he should be in programs with. And he can have the type of matches that he should be allowed to have. I just think like this discourse surrounding uh, Sami is insane because Sami Zayn is one of the best to do it belt to belt, and also outside of that, he's one of the best to do it when it comes to character work. I don't even think this thing about. I don't even really feel like he's playing a an underdog gimmick recently. I think that's kind of a misconception or a misperception. Uh, on the show, Heyman compared Brock to Jesus and Cross to Austin. Is the Sam? Why do you think the Zayn cooling is intentional? Like, I think like long term, we're going to see as Sami Zayn. Is it like? Do you think it might be intentional in the sense that he's the type of guy who should be a world champion and they don't want to do that with him? Or do you think it's intentional because of his political views in a company that has totally opposing political views? Because that might be a possibility. I'm interested to hear why you think Zen cooling might be intentional. Um, I thought that like the long-term goal for Sami Zayn was potential WrestleMania World Title match against Seth Rollins next year. Um, that's what I felt. It's hard to know if he can get there from here, but putting him in a program with this, what would you call it? Like, what's them things in space? Black holes or something? Karrion Kross. To be fair, I thought Sammy was winning the title at Mania, but not sure where he fits now. Yeah, I think that's fair, David. I think that's very fair. I did think that as well, but like he's been putting a 3 month program with Karrion Kross. Like people have this thing. I don't see what people see with Karrion Kross. I don't think I'm wrong with it either. You get 3 singles matches with Sami Zayn, and you can't have like a really good match. Like he hasn't had a good match in years. In fact, I can't really remember any. Like even his NXT run on top was a dud. So I don't know. He just feels like a dud to me, to be perfectly honest. Um, and I don't see what other people are talking about with him, which is probably a good time to move on from it. He's bad PR. Yeah, Sammy is. Yeah, yeah, I get you, Dunph. That might be intentional. His political views. So Dunphy had initially asked, "Is Sammy Zayn, is the Zayn cooling intentional?" And I asked why, uh, and he, Dunph thinks he might be bad PR for the current political climate. That might be true. That might be true. Um, but also the amount of like, do, does this movement around Karrion Kross feel organic to you? And does this current uh, Twitter discourse around Sami Zayn um, being cold, does that feel organic? None of this feels organic to me. This feels like kind of like a very PR driven exercise in terms of this whole we want cross movement. Doesn't feel organic. And the anti-Sammy sentiment I'm seeing online also doesn't feel organic. These seems like created narratives to me. Um, find it very confusing. Like, who really wants Karrion Kross, and like, who doesn't like Sami Zayn? Like, Sami Zayn has been one of the most beloved main roster characters for a decade, and before that, he was the most beloved NXT wrestler they ever had. None of this feels organic. The Sami Zayn hate or cooling doesn't feel organic to me. It feels like some sort of creation that was concocted in a PR lab, and this movement behind Karrion Kross again to me feels like a creation that's concocted in a PR lab. Um, so yeah, and like having Paul Heyman go on the Helwani show, which the Helwani show has just become which is really weird, has become like a WWE PR spinner. Like to just put out people. We need someone to talk shit about AEW, send him on to Ariel. We need someone to big up Karrion Kross, send him on to Ariel. We need someone to promote something, send him on to Ariel. So we're not going to see Sammy behind Triple H and Trump in the White House press conference. Highly doubted, Ronan. Imagine that. Um, yeah, but he's locked into a contract there now for a good few years to come. He only re-signed, was it last year, a 5-year deal, or the year before? He has at least 3 years left on his deal. But he seems to be happy there. But they should push him to the title. That is the story. Sami Zayn winning the world title is a tremendous story, and I will die on that hill. And uh, I don't think he needs a tweak character. I don't think he needs a heel turn. I think what he needs is to be put into programs with more interesting and just frankly, simply saying better professional wrestlers than Karrion Kross. Dynamite last week was a tremendous show, but I thought the most newsworthy thing to come out of the shows, they got a major bump in their rating coming off the Mox Hangman um, match the week before. Um, and I know I always talk about segment one, segment five, and segment 8/9. Uh, I think if we look here, what I found to be really interesting in this is they actually did a huge bump at the start of the show, so their lead in wasn't that strong. So if this I don't know if you can see this properly, but if this graphic was going back to the previous show, it was actually a huge bump. It was like a 13% bump for the start, and we get MJF. They love starting their shows with MJF. Because MJF is a needle mover when it comes to the reigns. But here is a tremendous, tremendous bump. And if we look down, it is the Mercedes Moné, Tony Storm, and Athena one leading in to a Young Bucks angle. Uh, to me, this is this is really an indication of how big a draw Mercedes and Tony Storm have become. If you remember when Mercedes came into the company first, there was this, they built this up to be a big thing, and it was in Boston, her hometown. And that Dynamite that she was due to debut on, they were trying to kind of recreate what they did with Punk in Chicago with his return for Mercedes' debut. And it didn't really move as many tickets as people expected, and it didn't really get the TV rating that was probably expected of it either. However, through the programs that she's worked, and particularly through the Tony Storm program, I think AEW have landed on two big TV draws: Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné. And I think we're starting to see movement for Hangman as a bigger TV draw than he'd previously been, and we're kind of confirming that MJF is the TV draw that he probably always was. So we get a big opening quarter with MJF. We get a good closing section with MJF, and we get a big needle move in the middle of the show with Mercedes and Tony Storm. Um, like if we look at the biggest drop in quarters, it's here. It's from this one to this one, but that's because there's a double ad break in there. Ad breaks generally kill fucking momentum when it comes to ratings anyway. So the quarter that saw the biggest hit percentage wise is also the one that had two ad breaks. That's not a huge surprise. I think the other this dotted line here is actually the normal averages. So like this show is above normal averages everywhere, and also parts that usually drop didn't drop. Like here, so next quarter with Mercedes and Tony, and the post show with Briscoe and MJF and Hangman Adam Page. So what we're getting here probably is I expected this as a post All In bounce, but we're just getting it a few weeks later. So this is really good signs for the company moving forward. Um, and this also doesn't include those watching on Max. Dynamite was a really good show. Looks like we're going possibly MJF versus Hangman. My prediction was that All Out in Canada, in Toronto. Maybe we're getting to that Forbidden Door in London, and possibly with a stipulation rematch at All Out. I wouldn't be against that because what we've seen earlier on in the year at the Revolution match is Hangman and MJF have really good chemistry, and we see that both on the mic, in those interactions, but also in the ring as well. So this is an exciting time if you're an AEW fan. The Brodido Young Bucks match was exceptional. That did well in terms of holding the number um, over a few, like that went on over a few quarters. So looks like we're going to get Brodido versus FTR, and the winners will face the Hurt Syndicate. Oh God, I hope it's Brodido. Those guys are just so awesome as a tag team. That was a tremendous match as well. So yeah, encouraging signs. Triple threat between MJF, Hangman, Briscoe. If they're doing a triple threat, I hope it's at Forbidden Door. Look, I'm of the belief that your world title matches should almost exclusively be major singles matches. I'm not a fan of world titles being defended in triple threat scenarios. I just feel like a great triple threat, while being super entertaining, is never as good as a great singles match. So I'm of the opinion that I don't know, I just think your world title, especially if you're AEW, because you know WWE is going to do loads of different weird matches for their top title. You're going to get triple threats, you're going to get multi-man cage matches or uh, whatever. I think if you're AEW, your world title should 95% of the time be big singles match. I think that would just make it feel that little bit extra special. Now, what they could do, and I'm not totally against this idea, is a triple threat at Forbidden Door, and then a singles at. So you could have Hangman pin and Briscoe in the triple threat in Forbidden Door, and then have um, Hangman versus MJF at All Out, and that'd be one way of doing it where you don't have to repeat that match for All Out. It's not a singles match again. Hear me out. Hangman pins Briscoe, MJF crashes in straight away, and Hangman still wins. I would fucking love that. That would be because if you look at what they're doing with Hangman, they're doing everything in their power to present him as your number one, without a shadow of a doubt, badass babyface. They're doing everything in their power to achieve that. So, David, I kind of fucking like your idea. I'm not gonna lie. I think that is a really solid idea. Um, no, I have said week after week, I've said no fucking cash ins. This has to be the no cash in company. Um, but if he was to beat MJF, and what would that do to MJF? Probably wouldn't be good for him. But that guy's so fucking good in the mic, it doesn't matter. And he's doing tremendous shit in CMLL anyway. He had like 14,000 in the house for his match with Averno last week. And he's going to do the Sandokan Jr. match. Sandokan Jr. Mexican, I don't really know how to pronounce it. He's going to do that match. That's going to do good numbers in Arena Mexico. Not this Friday, Friday week. No, this Friday. Friday the 15th, yeah. Um, and then they're going to set it out when he eventually does whatever stip match he's going to do at Mystico. So he can take some losses and still be absolutely fine. He's got 400 programs going on at the moment. We got all that intrigue still happening with the Hurt Syndicate, so he could probably lose that way, David. No. No, fuck me, lads. So we got one night of matches left with the G1, and anyone who knows me knows that G1 is one of my favorite times of the year when it comes to professional wrestling. And I was really trying to be positive about this throughout, but I wasn't really enjoying it. But yesterday, it finished me. It fucking finished me. The last night of the A block was an absolute fucking utter piece of horse shit. Um, and just this company is fucked, man. Like Ghetto needs to fucking go. MJF, Briscoe can splinter off, then Hangman is freed for Swerve it all out. I think, I think Hangman. Right, here's a scenario: if Swerve beats Okada, then he has that title, the Unified Championship. And you don't want to do your Unified Champion versus your World Champion at the very next pay per view. But if Swerve loses to Okada, he's going to need to do something to then. He's lost for the second biggest title. On the next pay per view, how do you justify him going for the title? To me, that would just leave a logical disconnect there. Um, I think they should save Swerve versus Hangman. They haven't had a singles match this year. They actually haven't worked a singles since All Out last year, the Crazy Cage match. I think it's probably better the longer you hold off if you can get to Revolution. Um, if you can get to Revolution next February, with maybe early March, that's where I would look to build back to that one. Uh, no, you fucking distract me from talking about this G1 all day. It's a shit show. So we end up with Evil, Finley, and Suji coming out of Block A in that order. Evil tops the block. Like I actually think Gato has to go because who does this help? Who does this help? Look at the young guns in this block. Suji ends up third behind Finley and Evil, been getting pushed for fucking ages and have never really taken off. Uemura doesn't qualify, who, in my opinion, had the best in ring G1 out of everyone in his block anyway. Was the best in ring performer. Just generally the best fucking performer in his block. Oiwa was having a fucking fantastic tournament. Um, it's just like promotional malpractice. Like we've seen this company year over year over year for the last few years lose all their top stars. And people will say, oh, AEW took all their top stars. That's not a good partnership. Fine, you can say that if you want, but what have New Japan done for themselves to try and replace them? When do I think New Japan started to fall off? Today is actually 2 years to the day since the Osprey Naito G1 semi-final, iconic G1 semi-final, like really one of the best matches in the history of the G1. A lot of people have their preference for some of the Masahiro Chono G1s of the 90s. Not me in particular. I'm more of a 2017 to 2020, 2016 to 2019 is where I think the peak of the G1 was. Yeah, even post pandemic, there was some great stuff. But like only 2 years ago was the Naito versus Will Ospreay G1 final or G1 semi final. Naito went on to win the final. And also, it was only like a year or two before that where you had that final between Ibushi and Tanahashi. That like they're two of the greatest wrestling matches I've ever seen. And yeah, Tanahashi's on his retirement tour now. Naito has gone out of the company. Osprey's in AEW, Okada's in AEW. What has this company? So I don't know, Ribshot, where I think it started to fall off. But they've known and we've known for quite a while that Tanahashi and Naito physically are coming to the end. Even if they kept Okada, they were never going to keep Osprey, just simply because he isn't Japanese. Even if they kept Okada, they haven't built a supporting cast. They haven't got any of these young guys into a position where they feel like they should be legitimate top guys. And maybe Suji still wins this thing. Or maybe Takeshita wins it. But also, Takeshita is a dual contract guy. He's not a New Japan guy, and he's not a guy who came through their system. Like, fucking Ren Narita's still in the running. That guy can't qualify, but it looks like he might. Now, I think it's going to be Takeshita and Umino that join Zack Sabre Jr. in Universal. In the UK and Ireland, we do get the PLEs with Netflix. JB is in the UK, in Scotland, so he gets the PLEs with Netflix. In America, I think it's still on Peacock. Um, but yeah, in international, the PLEs are on Netflix. So like they're going with evil, right? They've tried evil on top of this company before, and it fucking didn't work. So to answer your question, Ribshaw, where do I think New Japan fell off? Probably somewhere around the time they were going with evil on top for the first or second time. Um, they did good with Goto on top last year or earlier this year. Good, like not great. Why does the champion enter the G1 sometimes? Nearly all the time. So if the champion wins the G1, they get to decide who they work, who they give the title shot to. But really, it's like the idea of the G1 is that it's the 20 top workers in the company working a grueling schedule over 1 month, and only one person can come out as the winner of the G1. So the champion should be in there because he's obviously one of the top 20. Now, he doesn't defend his title in it, but it's about the idea really is about proving that in this stretch of a grueler of a month that you are the best professional wrestler in the company. And generally then the program for the Tokyo Dome is built off, well, X wrestler won the G1, they have a claim to be the best in the company, but is Y wrestler is the title, is the world champion, so they also have the same claim. So now you got two guys, one who has the G1 trophy and contract, and the other that has the title on a collision course. But what will also generally happen in a G1 is that the champion will lose a couple of matches and not win their block, even though it looks like here Zack Sabre Jr. could win his block. But generally, the champion will lose a couple of matches, and then that will give them a title contender for October and for November. So the champion will defend his title a couple of times between the end of August and the G1 and January 4th Tokyo Dome. So it's kind of the champion is generally used in this to set up a bit of the rest of the year, say, for the champion. Build some new programs for the champion for the end of the year, and also to get that collision course rolling for Tokyo Dome. Yeah, so the idea, like in kayfabe, will say is that the champion has to be in the G1 because this is the 20 best wrestlers in the world are wrestling this crazy tournament over 1 month. If Japan were to lose Yota, Yuya, and Yota Suji, they are done. Yeah, fucked. Fucked. But like, what do you think as well, Ronan? Like a lot of people are. Uh, now they do have Aaron Wolf coming in January. Hope that guy is an unbelievable wrestler because that guy is a legit megastar in Japan. He's an Olympic winning judoka. I think it was judo was his thing, and he has made the transition now to professional wrestling, and he's debuting at Tokyo Dome in January on January 4th, and he is legit, like I mean, a legit superstar. So much so that Japanese TV hasn't shown Wrestle Kingdom or the Tokyo January 4th Tokyo Dome show in 20 years. And this year they're not showing the Tokyo Dome full show, but they are showing the Aaron Wolf match. So maybe he can lead a bit of a revival there. But like, even if he is like Kurt Angle, like, straight in one of the best wrestlers in the world after like a month, even if he is that good, which, realistically, probably who is nobody, um, even if he is that good, there isn't a supporting cast there now. What do you do? Put him with Evil and have all this running shite that Gato loves? Have House of Torture coming in, torturing our brains in an Aaron Wolf match? That'd be a disaster. So, it needs to be Suji, it needs to be Uemura, it needs to be Umino and Oiwa. Like, it's time. It's like those guys, the A block, in my opinion, they should have just gone with Suji number one, Uemura number two, and fuck it, Oiwa number three. Have David Finley miss out, have Evil miss out, have Bolton miss out. Fuck it. Like, I'm saying now, it's time. Now. It was time 2 years ago. It was time 2 years ago. They did a Suji Naito world title match a couple of years ago, and Suji wasn't ready. But it nearly feels like now they should have had a beat Naito. I put the title on him before he's ready, because now he might feel like a big deal, and he might be able to get people into the arena. Some of these shows in the midst of this G1, like, yesterday was night 15, tomorrow's night 16, not tomorrow, Wednesday is night 16. Like, around night 7, 8, 9, the attendances were fucking shit. And that's because they haven't built stars that are capturing our attention in the Western part of the wrestling world, but also capturing the attention of the Japanese paying public, which is their bread and butter. So this company is in dire straits at the moment. I don't think it's unfair to say that. Now, maybe Aaron Wolf is going to be the savior, but again, if he comes in, he doesn't have a supporting cast of characters. Um, that's there to help him feel like a star. Like, if he beats Suji, it doesn't fucking mean that. If he beats Uemura, it doesn't fucking mean that. If he beats Oiwa, it doesn't mean that. Even if he beats Umino, it doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, like, also, Ron, what I was going to ask is, a lot of AEW fans are like clamoring for, why are New Japan people like going to be on the Forbidden Door show? Look at that list. Who feels like they would make a difference to the card? The Forbidden Door show, they're not doing Royal Quest this year, Ribshot. There's no Royal Quest this year. They know they can't sell tickets. Normally, like, they would do a Royal Quest show around August, September. But Tanahashi's last match is in England is going to be on Forbidden Door because they're not even doing a Royal Quest show. And their champion is English. That's how cold this promotion are right now. And like, anyone who knows me knows I love New Japan. They're my favorite wrestling company in the world for like a 5 year period. But right now, like, this booking is a disaster. New stars aren't being made. Everything is based around House of Torture. Like, 2 months ago, House of Torture lost their big feud ender to the Bullet Club War Dogs. And that seemed to be an indication that House of Torture were going to wind down as a headline featuring act, and War Dogs will be pushed into that position. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. War Dog or the House of Torture are still the most pushed thing on the show. Gabe Kidd was a potential winner for me if he didn't get injured. I do wonder that. I don't think he was going to win it, Ronan, but I do think he was certainly going to be in the top three in the group. Definitely going to be in the top three. I don't know instead of who, but yeah, he was getting a big push, I think. And that is like, that's a loss. Like, Block B has been pretty much okay outside of the Ren Narita matches. Like, everything else in Block B has been good. Um, yeah, good. Like, Drilla has had a great tournament. Great O'Khan has actually been one of the most interesting people to watch because Great O'Khan hasn't been in main event matches. He's been in like mid card matches that are getting 10, 12 minutes, and he's having just really solid 10, 12 minute matches that feel fresh. But we haven't had one match from this year's tournament that felt like a few years ago when we were watching, like Naito would have a random match on night 7 that you're like, well, that's a must see. Or like Osprey would, or whoever. Like Tanahashi had multiple ones of these. Ishii 6, 7 years ago when he was young and fresh. Well, he wasn't even young and fresh then, but younger and fresher than he is now. He was churning out like unbelievable matches. 7 of his 9 matches in this thing. Hiroki Goto was churning out 5 big near classics a month back in the day. Now we're not getting any in this tournament. Like, yeah, like when Omega was in it, of course, but even the likes of Ishii, Goto, um, when Ibushi was in it, like you're look, I'm pining for a thing that doesn't exist anymore. I don't know why. Anyway, that's everything for today. We've gone an hour and 11 minutes. That's the longest of the All Elite Morals yet. Thanks everyone for sticking with us. It was a long show. We got through a lot. We got UFC stuff, TKO, WWE, ESPN stuff, Karrion Kross stuff, poor Sami Zayn, Dynamite stuff, and this absolute clusterfuck of a G1. Come back next week. G1 is finished next Sunday, thank God. But I do still think that it's going to end up pretty good. I'm still hoping for a Takeshita Suji final. Will Takeshita win the title at Wrestle Kingdom and Kyle Fletcher also win the AEW title around the same time? Wrestle Kingdom. Is it at all likely? Uh, I think Takeshita has a really good chance of winning the AEW title around Wrestle Kingdom. Really good chance. I don't think Kyle Fletcher will win the AEW title around that time. It's a possibility. I think we're about a year away from Fletcher winning the title. Because I think going back to what's it called? Wembley next year for All in August. I think Osprey will win the title there. And I think Fletcher will beat Osprey for the title after that. So I think Osprey wins the AEW title this time next year, and I think Fletcher will beat him 4, 5, 6 months after that. So we're over a year away from Fletcher winning the AEW title. Now they could reverse that and have Fletcher win the title before that, and have Osprey beat Fletcher at Wembley for the title. But I think what we're going to get is a long TNT title run for Fletcher. But Fletcher is, in my opinion, 100%, 100% a future AEW World Champion within a year and a half. Yeah, a year and a half. Takeshita, I think they probably, no, I don't know what to predict with this company anymore because the booking has just gone so shit. It's like it's hard to predict, but in the bad way. Like they could put this fucking IWGP title on Evil, like the way things are going, which is like the worst possible outcome. Could Fletcher win the title first and have it? Yeah, that could like it could happen. So the way I see it is either Fletcher wins the title before Osprey, and then Osprey beats Fletcher for the title at All In, or Osprey beats like whoever beats Hangman. Maybe Okada beats Hangman, and Shingo is always solid bet for a few 5-star matches in G1. Remember Shingo like 3 years ago, 2 years ago in G1? Like it was just like Goto and Ishii. He actually kind of filled into the Ishii role. And even Shingo's matches in this were pretty good too, but he's just like he had a great match with Takeshita. He had a okay match with Umino. He had a decent match with Zack Sabre Jr. But like 3, 4 years ago, Takagi was putting on like those Ishii Goto days of like he was putting on 5 matches that you would have to go out your way to see. Um, awesome. Thank you everybody. Same time next week. Um, we just released the video as well of what was it? Backstage wrestling fights. We had a right good laugh with that. That was a real kind of banter episode. Shane knew loads about it. I knew jack shit, so I was learning a lot of it as we were going. But we had a real good laugh with it. Check that out. Um, Shout out to Cool Championship Wrestling up in Dublin this weekend. I heard there was some bangers on that as well. I'm hoping it goes up on OTT on demand this week. The Outlaw Mud Show. Looking forward to that. Uh, Edward Stewart Tate was on the card. Frankie Vendetta was on the card. Looking forward to seeing those two. Looking forward to seeing the Bullet Smith and Renzo Rose tag match against the legends Paddy Morrow and Session Matt Martina. Firebars, I'm from Ireland. Um, so looking forward to seeing Be Cool versus Santos. Controversial here. So see you all guys next week for more wrestling chat. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Peace.